Let's move on to commodities now. Crude continues its rally, settling just shy of $110 on Iranian concerns. Prices, of course, rose after the U.S. Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner said Iran can do a lot of damage to the global economy. It's been straight 7 sessions of highs for the crude prices and the longest string of gains since the 10-day rally that we saw late December. Gold, meanwhile, is at a 4-week high too. It slipped a little, though, down about 0.5%, but still up about 3% last week. What does all of this mean? Let's go across to Peter McGuire, the Chief Strategist at FX Global Capital. Peter, good morning once again. Thanks for joining us. First up, crude at 110. The crisis in Iran shows no signs of abating. Do we now live with high crude prices as a new reality? Peter, if you can hear me, crude at 110.
Yes,
Timothy Geithner coming out with ominous warnings saying that could impact the global economy. Do we now see crude as a, fresh new highs and crude as a new reality?
Yes, I said, well, look, good morning. Thanks for inviting me on the show. A couple of quick things. First off, I take on board what Geithner's saying. I also reflect on the current situation in Syria and, of course, Iran. I think that you'll probably see by the end of the week crude probably above 113, 114. If you see any strikes from Israel, which I think are probably a little bit early, but who knows, you'll certainly see far above that come, any time very, very quickly.
Peter, does this threaten the growth inflation dynamic in emerging economies right now? Because we in India at least were banking on lower crude prices to get inflation down and the Reserve Bank of India to cut rates.
Yes, exactly right. I mean, when you see emerging economies and, especially powerhouses like the BRICS, it's a great challenge. And that's going to be a key concern for all global economies, but certainly fast emerging ones. And I can see that it's going to be a handbrake. It's going to make inflation or spur inflation on. And countries like Brazil and India are really going to have a lot of difficulty trying to contain that inflationary number. So I think you've got a pretty tough year ahead internally.
Right. What's your target for the next year, if you have any at all, on crude?
Well, I think by the end of the week, as I said, I wouldn't be surprised to take 113, 114 for Brent, for WTI. For Brent, I think you'd be looking at about 125, 126, maybe even 127. It just totally depends on the current situation as far as geopolitical. I don't see, there's a little bit of talk as far as problems in Nigeria from their standpoint, but the whole frame is certainly centred on what's happening in Iran at the present time.
Right, Peter. On the other hand, we've been seeing countries like India resisting pressures to stop importing from Iran. Also, Saudi Arabia has said it will pump oil at its full capacity. Would that in some sense come in as a sort of calming factor for the markets?
Yes, I think any shortfall as far as issues as far as Iranian supply, I'm sure that Saudi Arabia will come to the rescue in a lot of ways. I'm sure they'll ramp up production, and for any shortfalls, they'll step up. I really think that when I look at it, there's no way that the Americans are going to sit by, or NATO, and let the Strait of Hormuz shut. So I'm not even worried about that at all. Maybe shut for 24 hours or 36 hours, but they won't continue to make it shut.
Peter, one word on gold, which is at a 4-week high. It's, is that all economic optimism that's floating around going to mean that there's going to be a gold rally? It's already up about 13% this year. Yeah,
I know. It's been very, very strong. Same with silver and platinum. All the precious metals are doing incredibly well. Yeah, I think from where you're sitting as far as gold, sitting at around about 1777 at the moment, 1778. I'm mindful that you'll probably, if we see geopolitical, then gold will probably be 1850 within a matter of a day or two. I think of the way it's trending at the moment, I wouldn't be surprised to see it probably above 1800 by the end of the week, maybe even 1810. Seems to have a lot of momentum, and I think that will continue to the upside.
One word on what you make of the G20 and what they're saying about the $2 trillion bailout, all of that, plus what's happening in Europe. How is all of that in some sense going to impact crude, or will that not have a correlation?
Well, I don't think it's going to have a strong relationship with crude. I think crude's a Middle East story, and certainly Iran and what's happening with Israel and the United, well, more Israel and the United States as far as the nuclear issues. As far as the troika is concerned in Europe, I think that'll just bubble along. If they can, and they seem to have put the Greek matter to bed, but I'm sure that the next one they'll have a very close look at will be Portugal, and where that'll be, I'd say, before Easter. It'll be a pretty tough year for Europe, and I just think this will only add more confusion to the market as far as higher energy prices.
Peter McGuire, many thanks for joining us there as always. Peter McGuire from Sydney with his views on crude and gold.